Explain that to us, especially for an Indian audience. What could a Trump presidency potentially mean?
Well, I mean, interestingly, for an Indian audience, India is one of the very few countries in the world that will actually have quite strong relations with the U.S., whether it's Trump or Biden. So this election doesn't actually mean that much for the people that are watching this interview right now. But in other parts of the world, like right here in Europe, this is incredibly important. There's a war going on in Ukraine, the heart of Europe, that Putin is going to do so much better if Trump wins. Because Trump sees Zelensky as a personal enemy. He's going to go after him. He's going to cut off the aid. And that's going to divide Europe. There are going to be Europeans that are saying, okay, well, we've got to work with Russia now. There'll be a lot of other Europeans that are saying, what are you, crazy? I mean, like, we've got to be fighting these people. So this is kind of an existential crisis for NATO, for the EU. And of course, in the United States itself, if Trump loses, he goes to jail. If Trump wins, he is going to politicize the Department of Justice, the Internal Revenue Service, the Federal Bureau of Investigations, to not only to undo those investigations against him, but to go after the people that have been investigating him.
Can he be in jail and be president?
Well, I mean, this, in principle, there is no law in the books in the United States
in India,
that says
there
that
is.
You can't. Well, the United States is not India. But, it is, the Supreme Court may well rule on that. And look, the fact is, you're asking me that question. We have so many things that are happening in the U.S. right now that are unprecedented. And because they've been happening for a while, like January 6th and like 91 indictments against the president and 2 impeachments, but impeachment is broken, all these things, Americans are starting to normalize it. They're starting to think, well, I guess it's not such a big deal. No, it has never been like this before. These things have never happened.
Why are they happening now in your view?
Well, I think first they're happening now because Trump is individually a uniquely destructive presence. But he reflects a lot of anger in the United States that you've seen to different degrees in different countries to break things. People want someone that represents them to fight against the establishment. And the establishment is not just political figures. It's also the media. It's also the universities. It's also the scientists. And no one does that as effectively as Donald Trump. So, look, I mean, the fact is that we now have an environment in the United States where you have 2 completely different groups that not only see each other as the enemy, but they don't even agree on basic shared facts. Their narratives are completely different. Their information environment is completely different. And in that regard, Biden and Trump supporters today have more in common with Russians and Ukrainians, or with Israelis and Palestinians.
A lot of Republicans we met here seem to be arguing that Trump is running a more calibrated campaign than he did last time. And this Trump presidency, they claim or they believe, will be more mature, more sorted, more organized than the last one. Are they for real or are they?
No, I mean, the last campaign, let's keep in mind that before Trump was president, he had no idea how to run a campaign. And so in that regard, he had the D-list working with him. I mean, he had Paul Manafort, who should have been in prison and then was running his campaign. So, I mean, obviously, if you're asking, are they going to run a more disciplined campaign than that? Yes. But Trump is the same person, right? I mean, I've seen coverage. If you remember Jurassic Park, and then, the velociraptor is chasing after the kids, the family, and then you find out that the velociraptor learns how to turn the doorknob, and it's like, that's like Trump. He's learned how to turn the door. No, this is the same Trump. If you read his social media, if you watch him at the rallies, he has not changed at all. He is narcissistic. It is all about him. It is all uppercase, shouting at you all the time, and it's also, he's a showman. He's a marketer. I mean, he's actually an incredible campaigner. And the thing is, even if he's unfit as a president, to become president, you need to campaign. And he campaigns better than anybody else out there. He attracts the attention. People want to talk about him. You and I haven't talked about Biden much so far. He's the president. Biden's the most important political figure in the world today. And yet we're talking about Trump, which is kind of annoying, but it also does reflect this supernatural skill that he happens to possess.